It's with pleasure that I welcome this morning the 6 newest confirmed members of the congregation: Madison, Kinsey, Claire, Cassie, Braden, and Alexandra. May each of you know that you are loved in a profound way by God and by family who have given you strong roots in the sharing their faith with you. You are a blessing to this congregation and to your community. And the parable of the sower is perfect text for celebrating your confirmation and exploring your role in the world. Now imagine the people who were listening to Jesus' parable. Crowds and crowds of people who followed Jesus. Some to hear his words, some to get food that seemed to be available, and some perhaps because they were curious and found themselves swept away with the crowd. Now they represent different groups of people in society then and now, perhaps people that we recognize in school or in our community. Some people desperate for the dignity of essentials in life. Some who are longing for deeper understanding and real relationships, friendships. And those who jump into the trends because they don't want to be left out. We all fit into these categories at different times. And also there were the 12 disciples with Jesus, the enlightened, those who have been given the gift of seeing and hearing the truth. And we too have these moments of understanding. In this parable, Jesus explains that the seeds represent the word of the kingdom and God is the sower of the seeds. We should note that all of the seeds that are sown begin to grow. The sower spreads the seeds everywhere in abundance and generosity, and every seed takes root. Today, I'm moved to look at the conditions that create different kinds of soil that nurture the seeds or choke out the seeds. Now, most of us have heard this parable, and we usually expect that we are called to be the good soil. And we have some pride in figuring out how to be good soil. But this morning, let's look a little deeper. Perhaps there's more we can begin to understand. Now, all the seeds spread by the sower in the parable germinate and grow, even the seeds eaten by birds. They're actually transplanted, if you know what I mean. Now, being transplanted reminds me of a young person I met at a summer camp program a number of years ago. His parents were residential school survivors, people who had been taken from their family and denied appropriate parenting role models. This young person had been terribly abused as a result of his parents being plucked from their heritage and transplanted to a different place. His only escape was to fall into a very deep sleep where nothing woke him. Now, this usually resulted in him waking up in the humiliation of having wet his bed at camp. How can the seeds of love possibly grow when people are denied dignity and affirmation to grow in the place they belong? In other words, to be who they truly are. This is an example of one kind of evil that works in depleting the quality of soil, making it difficult for love to grow. Things such as persecution, pursuit of wealth, trivial distractions, worry, all things that wear away at the dignity of a person. Now, that young person came to the camp program for 3 summers, and God, who is gracious and just, nurtured the seeds of love in this young person's life. By the 3rd summer, he was able to stay at camp for almost the full week. Each summer at camp, he learned a bit more about his Aboriginal heritage and felt growing validation in his worth as a human being. His scars are deep and will always be there. But as he slowly returned to his native soil, he was also learning to accept love. Now, the point of this is that we do not know the conditions that create the soil for love to grow in some lives or be choked out in the life of another. We do know that God gives love in abundance, so much love that God took on human form to nurture a relationship with us. So much love that God in Jesus faced a humiliating and painful death, all to be in loving relationship with humanity. The love of God moves those with eyes to see and ears to hear to nurture the seeds of love planted in even the toughest soil of hearts. Often, as a student spiritual care provider, I would enter the hospital room of a person who had lost hope. As they began to explain their lapsed church life, they would remember their church roots, and a remarkable transformation occurred. They would feel joy at the memory of the church community of their childhood. Often they would try to figure out why they lost connection with their church, but no answer seemed to really be adequate. Now be sure that the seeds of love and the budding relationship with God that was sown in their youth is still there, and finally brought them the hope they yearned for. I will say again, the point is that we do not know the conditions that transplant or create soil for love to grow or be choked out in the life of a person. But as children of God's love, there is compassion and recognition of injustices. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear can share the love of God by listening and patiently loving. The love that comes from God is without conditions or limits. The harvest of 100-fold, 60-fold, or 30-fold is from God and for God, and we realize the promise of the kingdom. To our new members this morning, God bless you as we work together. Learn your story and the story of other people, and understand and accept where we all are, nurturing love to bring forth God's kingdom.